Hello and welcome to this week's edition of PC Voyage. I'm Rainey Laviolette.
And I'm Andrew Doty.
Our new show, PC Voyage, will take you and your personal computer to places you've never gone before.
Well, before we begin, we'd like to take this time to thank our producer, Keith Davis, the entire PC Voyage staff, and Continental Cablevision for making this possible.
This week's voyage will include Tim Hamlet with questions and answers, Bob Clements with PC News Bites, Jim Dilks with Bits and PCs, and Chip, our computer assistant. Hello, Chip.
Hello, my name is Chip. I am the 386SX machine. I will be helping Mount right here on PC Voyage. I hope you enjoy the show.
Today, computers can be found in many homes, schools, and offices. So if you're looking to purchase a computer, today's segment's for you.
Our guest this week is Charles Robbins, manager of the new CompuAdd Computer Superstore in West Springfield, Massachusetts. Hello, Charlie.
Good evening.
Could you please explain for the novice computer buyer what are the components that make up the computer system?
Yes, there are three major components to the computers. You have your input devices such as the mouse and keyboard that we have in front of us. You have the central processing unit, which contains the motherboard, your disk drives, which are also input and output devices, and the monitor, which could also be considered one of the output devices.
What do you recommend for today's first-time computer buyer?
Well, number one, I recommend that they investigate what software it is that they're going to be using first. That is the primary source of the functions that they're going to be using the machine for. Such as word processing, spreadsheet, database managers, and from there they can get a good feel for the size and the expense of the machine that they're going to be using.
What processor would somebody be purchasing these days?
The normal processor for both end users and for corporate is the 386 machine. That has been the bulk of the sales.
You have EGA, VGA, CGA monitors. What would somebody be buying?
Normally, I would recommend a VGA because of the low-end cost as well as the high-end cost. The VGA comes in as low a market field as $259 up to well over $1,000, depending on the size and the intensity of the pixel rate, the number of dots across and down.
There are 5.25-inch floppies, 3.5-inch floppies, high density, low density. When a person purchases a machine, which floppy drive should they have today?
Well, the 3.5 has become a very popular size drive, and because of the method or the media itself, the case, it's very easy to store, and it has low possibility of losing its data just carrying it around. So 3.5 has virtually taken over the market. However, there's a lot of software that's still on 5.25 and still available on 5.25. So it's pretty much a personal taste.
The floppy drive shouldn't be confused with the hard drive.
That's correct.
Okay. In retrospect, what is the difference in sizes between a floppy and a hard drive? What would be the average hard drive you'd find in a machine today?
The hard drives vary from 20 megs up to well over 600 megabytes. What does that mean in relation to the floppies? A floppy drive will hold 1.2 to 1.4 megabytes worth of information. So you're looking at anywhere from 20 to 40 diskettes worth of information in one media case that's normally inside the machine.
What about a printer? Would you advise somebody purchasing a new computer to go out and get a printer right away?
In most cases, yes, I would. They'll want to ensure that their printer is compatible with the machine that they're buying and that they have the correct connections for that printer. The printer cost is nominal by comparison to the machines, and with the correct advice, they'll have a compatible system.
You hear about 24-pin and 9-pin dot matrix printers, inkjet, laser printers. What would the average home user use?
I normally recommend a dot matrix printer for the home user that does not have business applications. The choice between a 9 and 24-pin becomes a personal taste.
What other options, such as a mouse as we have here, modems, joysticks. Do you recommend somebody purchasing their first computer?
Yes, with the advent of the Windows application being sold with most computers nowadays, the mouse has become an integral part of the input devices. So the mouse does become very important. As far as modem and additional peripherals, this has become pretty much a plug-and-play industry, so it's not an essential component and can be purchased in the aftermarket.
Do you recommend somebody purchasing, if they get a modem, 2400 baud or 9600 baud? Or?
Well, 2400 baud is plenty for this area of the state due to the fact that you're dependent on the phone lines. Anything beyond 2400 baud on our phone access lines, it's going to be pretty much you're overspending because the phone lines just can't handle the data transfer beyond that speed.
What about average memory capacity? What should you get in a PC, when the first PC?
With a Windows application machine, you're looking at a 2 megabyte minimum configuration for adequate memory on a machine. So 2 megabytes is a good minimum to look for.
What would you say are the pitfalls of somebody wanting to purchase a mail order machine as opposed to going through a store like yours?
Well, if they are going mail order, I would recommend that they, number one, go with a company that has a good track record and can provide them with at least a minimal amount of support, and that support should be at least a toll-free number, because if they are a first-time buyer, they want to ensure that, number one, they're getting components that are industry standard. Right, and that's not something that's easy to do when you're dealing through the mail looking at a catalog. Number two, you're going to want to ensure that you're getting the current versions of software so that your machine is up to date and works with the software that you purchase. And it's very, very hard, again, if you've already made your software decisions, to ensure that that will work on a machine through a mail order catalog.
You'd also want to make sure that the hardware you're purchasing, as new software versions come out for Windows and other pieces of software, the hardware itself can handle it.
That's correct.
As far as ordering mail order, what seems to be the track record? I mean, are the equipment that you read in these magazines quality equipment, or are they?
You can get some very good quality equipment through the mail order if, again, you're careful about the companies that you select. Our company, for example, has a direct mail order catalog. You have no savings when you deal with certain mail order catalogs because of the fact that they have retail establishments in the state. Therefore, you're not only paying the state sales tax, but you're also paying the shipping cost involved, whereas the retail stores normally pick up that cost for the end user. So dealing with the retail end versus the mail order, there are the advantages of being able to walk in and look over the equipment before it's purchased, and question the individuals as to, number one, is it the current version? Will it work with the software I've selected? And is the hardware industry standard?
What would you say to somebody that's going out and looking to build their own system, purchase the components and build it themselves?
As a learning experience, if this is an educational purchase, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's very easy to become knowledgeable with the computers when you do the hands-on build. If you buy the components independently from one reputable dealer and put them together yourself, you should have somebody stand by, whether that be on the phone or have a number available for you to call when you initially do this, so that if you have any problems in the setup, you can have someone, a local source, or through a toll-free number.
Thanks, Charlie, for joining us on our very first PC Voyage. The CompuWide Computer Store is located at the Riverdale Shops, 935 Riverdale Street in West Springfield, Massachusetts.
Alrighty, do you think that today's first-time computer buyer will be able to purchase this computer better?
I hope so, but I think on future shows we should have follow-up discussions on individual computer components.
You're probably right. After Chip brings you this week's trivia question, Bob Clements will be on hand with the PC Voyage News.
Here are this week's computer trivia questions. Number 1. What version of MS-DOS first allowed the use of a hard drive larger than 30 megabytes? And What year was the handheld electronic calculator introduced?
Welcome back. During the next break, Chip will bring you our computer trivia answer.
Well, Rainey, I hope our PC Voyage staff didn't make that question too difficult.
I think everyone watching will have to wait until after Bob Clements brings us the PC Voyage news to find out. And now, here's Bob.
Hi, guys. Hello, folks. I'm Bob Clements, and this is PC Voyage News. Today's stories include multimedia developments, Intel and the chip wars, rats, computing in China, dry stones, wet stones, and wind stones, the Laffer utilities, and a not-too-brilliant thief. To start it off, Multimedia PC Council recently opted to drop the 80286-based PCs from its list of accepted multimedia platforms. The 286 lacks the power to adequately run multimedia applications. As a result, the base MPC approved system is a 16 megahertz 386SX. The system must also include at least 2 megs of memory, a 30 meg hard drive, a CD-ROM drive, digital sound support, and Microsoft multimedia extensions for Windows. With multimedia software gaining momentum, more PC owners are looking to add sound cards to their systems. MediaVision has developed 2 sound cards that will be aimed at PC users with not-so-deep pockets. The firm's new Pro Audio Spectrum 16 is a 16-bit device that offers stereo CD quality sound for $350, about 1/3 the price of most competing products. They also provide a 8-bit stereo sound output for $279. The company's goal is to popularize multimedia by offering PC owners technology solutions at affordable prices. Intel is planning a massive campaign to promote its 486 microprocessors, reports PC Week. The effort is designed to make the 486 microprocessor a better seller than the company's older 386 series. It notes that the chip maker plans to slash prices. Intel has already cut the price of the 20 megahertz 46SX CPU from $258 to $237. But even that move probably won't keep the chip maker from losing business to its competitors. Intel is planning price cuts of up to 35% on its popular 386 chips this April, reports Myers. The company plans to keep a step ahead of its rivals by launching its next-generation microprocessor, the 80586, this summer. This is the start of a price war, financial analyst Michael Gumbert tells Myers. He feels the price cuts might have negative consequence for all parties involved. Intel, in fact, says it will introduce over 30 new variations of its new 486 and 386 microprocessors in 1992. Included will be new chips that run at 3.3 volts instead of 5 volts to further increase portable PC battery life. And the company is also planning to release its new high-end microprocessor codenamed the P5. That's the 80586 I spoke of earlier. That chip will contain 3 million transistors and bring mainframe computer-like performance to PCs. It will offer performance in the 100 MIPS, that's millions of instructions per second range, and be 100% compatible with 386 and 486 microprocessors. The P5 will probably be named the 586, as I said before, should begin appearing in PCs by year's end. And the P6 is about halfway through the development cycle. The device is likely to be released in late 1993. The company also has started work on the P7, which should become available in 1995. Intel will spend $800 million on research and development in 1992 alone. Amid all this, Advanced Micro Devices says it will ship a line of 486 CPUs by the end of the year. The series will include the 25 megahertz, 33 megahertz, and 50 megahertz versions of the 80486 and a 25 megahertz 486 SX device. Last April, the company became the first chip manufacturer to break Intel's lock on the PC microprocessor market by introducing a line of hot-selling 386 clones. On a less technical note, Northern Michigan University researchers have developed a software-based computer rat. The simulation has proven so successful that the university's psychology department no longer uses live rats in mazes and other experiments. The software saves the school some $2,000 a year in rat expenses. Professor Charles Leith recently told a UPI writer that the software also offers other benefits. He noted that the computer rats don't bite, don't cause allergies, are smarter, and can learn their tricks much faster, not to mention not having to deal with the animal rights groups. While everyone has been focusing on Japan, China says it has become the world's second largest floppy disk drive maker and exporter after Japan. The Xinhua News Service reports that the China Magnetic Recording Equipment Company co-produced 120,000 3.5-inch drives with a Hong Kong-based firm during the past 6 months. It also notes that the venture plans to increase production to between 50,000 and 100,000 units per month. Elsewhere in China, an American mountain climbing team has reached the summit of the world's 6th highest mountain, China's Chou-O-Yu, with the help of a 20 megahertz 386SX notebook PC donated by AST Research. The team used the computer to monitor supplies as members moved from camp to camp. The system also helped the climbers keep a diary of their adventures. The team recharged the PC's batteries with a specially designed solar panel. The panel provided 0.57 amps of current and weighed 1.8 pounds. A cable connected the panel to the PC's charger, allowing the battery to remain out of direct sunlight. Meanwhile, in other parts of China, the China Exploration and Research Society president, Hao Man Wang, has completed a 4-month desert expedition to China. He also was accompanied by a solar-powered premium exec 386SX20 notebook PC donated by AST Research. The PC was used to document the expedition's research and to manage its supply inventory. A custom-built 17.6 by 10.6-inch solar panel powered the computer. Portions of our PC Voyage News were provided through the courtesy of the Prodigy Service. Thank you and good evening.
Thanks, Bob. You know, isn't that amazing that they're already talking about the 586 and the 686 and the 786? I just got my 486 on my desk.
They said originally that the 786 was doing better than the 586.
Wow. Now, Chip will be bringing you the PC Voyage trivia answer, and after that, Tim Hamlet will be on hand for questions and answers. And now, here's Chip with the trivia answer.
Number 1. Version 4.0 first allowed the use of a hard drive larger than 30 megabytes, and the handheld electronic calculator was introduced in 1965 by Texas Instruments.
Welcome back. Rainey, what do you think of that job Chip's doing?
Well, what more could you expect from a computer? Now, Tim Hamlet is here with your questions and answers. Tim.
Hi, thank you, Rainey and Andy. Hello to you out there, and welcome to PC Voyage's Questions and Answers. Each week I'll be answering questions sent in by you, the viewer. So put your thinking caps on and send me some good ones. Like this one from Doug Morrell of Chicopee, Mass. Doug asks, what is a virus and how does it affect my system? An excellent question, Doug, especially in the light of the recent bout with the Michelangelo virus that some of us may have had experience with. A virus is a very special kind of Trojan horse, that is, a program that, like its ancient Greek counterpart, hides inside another program and unexpectedly comes out and attacks your computer system. But for a Trojan horse to be called a virus, it must be able to reproduce itself. That is why viruses are so dangerous. They can lie dormant for long periods of time and waiting for a key that is going to release them. Like the Michelangelo virus, it is only activated on March 6th, the birthday of the real Michelangelo. In the meantime, you could be making copies of the virus and passing it on to other people. The effects that viruses produce range from annoying smile faces on your screen to damaged files and sometimes even reformatting of your hard drive. To protect yourself against these diabolical programs, you should purchase an antivirus program. There are many to choose from and are relatively inexpensive in comparison to the damage, downtime, and aggravation that they can cause. One of the best virus detectors on the market today is Central Point's antivirus. It can detect over 1,000 different known viruses and can be purchased for around $100. Check out your favorite software store for exact pricing and availability. Another thing that I've heard people ask is, what does it mean when you've optimized your hard drive? Well, first try to imagine your hard drive inside your machine and it's spinning at a very high rate of speed, and the read-write head is just barely floating over the surface. When your computer sends information to the hard disk to be written, it places the data wherever it encounters a blank space. So when the computer is finished writing the data, it may be split up all over the hard disk. When you retrieve the file, the computer has to search all over the disk to find all the bits and pieces of the file. So when you optimize your drive through the use of special software like Norton Utilities, all the pieces of the file are placed in order right next to each other on the disk. So when the computer has to find the file, it only has to look in one place. This also saves a lot of wear and tear on your hard drive. Well, that's it for this week. And for PC Voyage Questions and Answers, I'm Tim Hamlet. Back to you, Rainey and Andy.
Thanks, Tim. And remember, we're here to answer your questions. In order for us to help, you have to send us your questions. Here's Chip with a PC Voyage address.
Questions for Tim, or if you have any comments about the show, please write to us. Our address is PC Voyage, P.O. Box 6295, Holyoke, Massachusetts, 01041.
Don't forget to include your phone number with your question. You never know when we might call.
Okay, there are many commands you will be using to run your computer with. So Jim Dilks is on hand to explain some of those commands to us. Jim?
Hello, Andy and Rainey. This evening I'm going to be showing people how to format a system's disk. Sometimes in the operation of your computer, you may accidentally arrange your command COM file or cause other damage to the drive so that you can't get back into the machine. So what I'm going to do this evening is show people how to set up a system bootable disk. The command is format space, and what I'm adding here at the end of these are called switches. This switch here will allow the machine to transfer the system to the floppy, and the last switch will allow the machine to ask me for a volume name when it's done formatting. It says to enter the floppy into the drive. We've already done that, so I will now press enter. And now it's formatting the disk. And it's going through the percentages of the disk. Some of the things you should remember about this when you're doing this is that different drives have different densities, and you should make sure that you understand what your hard drive, what your floppy drive is set up for. There's single density diskettes, high density diskettes. There's 3 1/4 or 3 1/2 inch diskettes, and there are 5 1/4 inch diskettes. You should check your user's manual to make sure that you purchase the right diskettes. So the total process here takes a little bit of time. We
Just to butt in here for a second.
Yes.
Is the process similar for doing a 3 1/2 inch diskette as well?
it all depends on the diskette. Now, what happens is if you're formatting a low density diskette on a high density drive, the machine may come back and tell you you have a media error. And that's because the machine may not recognize the difference between the two. So what you have to do is, there's some extra switches, but we won't get involved in that this week. It's a little bit too complicated for that right at the moment. Okay, the format is now complete. What we are going to do next is the machine will now move the system onto the diskette. Now it's asking for a volume name. We're going to call this a systems disk. Now it is the last question it's asking me is whether or not we want to format another disk. We will answer no and enter. And that completes setting up a systems disk.
What is this information here?
Okay, what you're looking at on the screen is it tells you the total amount of storage you have on the disk, how many bytes the system is taking up is the second line down, and the amount that you actually have left over for storage on the last line.
Thanks, Jim. Wow, wasn't that interesting?
Thanks, Jim.
Jim was kind enough to bring in we were talking about the first electronic calculator here a few minutes ago, where that was a trivia question for this week. Jim brought us in this is probably one of the smallest MS-DOS machines available. It's fully MS-DOS compatible. You can plug it into your floppy drives and actually be able to transfer your data right onto this and run your programs. You think you can get your fingers around this one?
Needless to say, you won't be touch typing on that unit. Again, thanks, Jim. We're glad that we had the opportunity to bring this episode to you. If you have any ideas on future episodes, please feel free to write to us at the P.O. Box that Chip mentioned earlier.
For PC Voyage, I'm Rainey Laviolette.
And I'm Andrew Doty.
See you next week.